Hello everyone, today we read and comment on the 16th paragraph of the first chapter of the first book of von Clausewitz's Vom Krige, the title being Attack and Defense are things differing in kind and of unequal force. Polarity is therefore not applicable to them. The text follows. If there was only one form of war, to wit, the attack of the enemy, therefore no defense. Or, in other words, if the attack was distinguished from the defense merely by the positive motive, which the one has and the other has not, but the methods of each were precisely one and the same, then in this sort of fight, every advantage gained on the one side would be a corresponding disadvantage on the other, and true polarity would exist. But action in war is divided in two forms, attack and defense, which, as we shall hereafter explain more particularly, are very different and of unequal strength. Polarity therefore lies in that to which both bear a relation in the decision, but not in the attack or defense itself. If the commander wishes the solution put off, the other must wish to hasten it, but only by the same form of action. If it is A's interest not to attack his enemy at present, but 4 weeks hence, then it is B's interest to be attacked, not 4 weeks hence, but at the present moment. This is the direct antagonism of interests, but it by no means follows that it would be for B's interest to attack A at once. That is plainly something totally different. So, this paragraph has naturally to be read in pair with the 15th that we have read last time, to which von Clausewitz had defined the requisition to which the principle of polarity is brought, as fundamentally when we speak of two different things which have a common relation external to themselves, that is not the things but their relations which have the polarity. So this means that fundamentally when you fight, you're not in a metaphysical world where you just have your enemy existing around and everything that happens between you and him is dictated by a perfect polarity, because at that point one advantage of the other would translate itself into a disadvantage of yours and vice versa. But you have fundamentally some paths you have to take. You're physical beings. You're even physically located in certain environments. You're under different circumstances, influenced by different factors, and especially you have also different motives. So here, von Clausewitz is coming back with the theoretical abstraction that he uses as an example to demonstrate ex absurdo what instead in reality really exists. So he says, imagine that there was only one form of war, to wit, that is fundamentally the attack. So no defense, just you have two enemies that either punch each other or they don't do anything, so they stay neutral. So in other words, he puts it that the attack was distinguished from the defense merely by the positive motive. So at that point the defender doesn't have a real let's say need to defend, but it's just like a passive being that at a certain point can do nothing but striking back, not really defending. So exploiting actually what in reality the strength of defense has, because the defense is the strongest form of war, but with the negative motive, while attack is the weakest, but with the positive motive. So here von Clausewitz in fact is also assuming that the one and the other that fundamentally where attacks has this positive motive, and the other one if it doesn't has evidently not, or at least it's the only option that in potential it has. And he also assumed that the methods of each were precisely one and the same, so that there is no let's say no other option but striking back with the same, in a very homogeneous fashion in terms of means. So then in terms of conditions, let's say better, then it says, then in this sort of fight, every advantage gained on the one side would be a corresponding disadvantage on the other, and true polarity would exist. So this is obvious. You know, let's stress the fact that we are talking about a theoretically, let's say, an abstract and theoretical thing. So in this system, you have two entities that can only strike each other. So at that point, the strike fundamentally damages the enemy, and damaging the enemy disadvantages the other fighter and your side. So, and vice versa. So it's at that point it's whoever throws more punches, or more powerful punches in many ways. So in this case, von Clausewitz says true polarity would exist, because at that point it's just like in video games. You have just a bar that goes down, and the more it goes down, the more you increase the enemy's bar goes down, the more this increases the chances of for you to win, as long as you keep offending him. And it's as if these forces remained spent entirely within the system, so that they do not go wasted. Either they hit or they don't. And at that point, it's only the motive of you wanting to punch back that has the effect of, you know, damaging the enemy at that point. Then von Clausewitz says, but action in war is divided in two forms, attack and defense, which, as we shall hereafter explain more particularly, are very different and of unequal strength. So this time, actually, von Clausewitz fortunately had the time before he died to write enough about attack and defense, and I'm referring to the fact that in the previous paragraph he mentioned this, you know, that he expected to he said at least to expect to write a fuller explanation of the requisition of the principle of polarity, but it still effectively does it actually in these two, both in the 15th and in the 16th paragraph, and generally that the same concepts that pops out constantly in his thought. So it's as if we actually had it. It's not a big deal that he didn't write it in terms of the solidity of his own system. What he says here is that, as we've seen, real war, so besides extractions, is divided in two forms, attack and defense. We repeated that attack is the weakest form with the positive motive, while defense is the strongest form but with the negative motive. And it's gonna be plenty of occasions to explain it, because he comes to explain them pretty clearly and pretty consistently, as we will observe in the future. But what is important here is that they're very different and also of unequal strength, as we have seen by definition. Polarity, therefore, he says, lies in that to which both bear a relation in the decision, but not in the attack or defense itself. So even given this kind of abstract theoretical situation where at that point, if we assume it to be real, there is the moving factor is the motivation, right? Whoever owns the motive to hit the strongest is is in many ways, we'll see how, has the effect on the enemy. Given always this abstraction, so without other intervening factors that we have seen. But von Clausewitz says, not in the attack or defense in itself. So, because we have seen that they are two different things, he finally make the clarificatory example that we needed both in the 15th and in the 16th paragraph up to now, which is a very practical one that actually clarifies very effectively the war speech. So he says, if the one commander wishes the solution put off, the other must wish to hasten it, but only by the same form of action. So this is the idea. You know, if one of the commanders wishes to belate the action for some reason, that can be anything, to delay the action, to belate the action, the other commander has instead to hasten it, because that's the motive, that's the objective. I mean, the motive, we don't know it, but that's the aim, the purpose. But we have given that the modes of the fight, the form of action, as you can define it here, it's you can translate it, has to be the same for the abstract definition that we have given. So there he says, if it is A's interest not to attack his enemy at present, but 4 weeks hence, then it is B's interest to be attacked not 4 weeks hence, but at the present moment. So this is important, because here you realize how the relation actually works, because here the point is whether to be attacked or not. Here B's is not saying, okay, I don't want to be attacked. He actually has an aim, a very clear aim, to be attacked, because he knows that if A's is gonna delay, this attack will be actually heavier in the future, so it will be more damaging. It will bring to a greater disadvantage for B. So he wishes to be attacked now. And it says, and Von Clausewitz said, this is the direct antagonism of interests, right? It's kind of self-evident. But it by no means follows that that it would be for B's interest to attack A at once. Do you understand why? Because that is plainly something totally different. So if B doesn't wish to be attacked, this doesn't mean that if B wishes to be attacked now, because we have seen that he has that specific interest, then it doesn't at all follow that B has the interest to attack A now. So here the principle of polarity is brought into requisition, because attack and defense are something totally different. That's the real point. Because if A now is delaying the attack, so B has interest to be attacked. Why? Because he expects fundamentally that A at this point can have a weaker attack than it will have in before. So he has all the interest to form the conditions, to be attacked. And this can be carried out in several ways that we can't know, because now we don't know what the situation beyond this is, but we don't care. This is still kind of the realm of abstraction, into which fundamentally the form of action is the same. But the fact that B wants to be attacked doesn't mean at all that it's in his interest to attack A, because there is no reciprocity between two things. In order to attack A, as much as we know, for what we can know, B may have, for instance, the need to spend way more force than, let's say, what A would be able to inflict them if he attacked him now or even later. So we don't know. Maybe now B has the interest to attack A. It may as well happen. We don't know. We don't know what the relation is here. These are just a given theoretical example. But bringing A to fight for B is radically different whether this has to happen being attacked or attacking, because this entails two completely different things. And this is how you can't talk about polarity, because the concept of polarity, and this is the greatest lesson that I was kind of explaining it in for introducing the last time without this actual example, but making other examples, is that when you have the conception of a polar world, let's say better world, because at this point it's not even a polar fight, because that's the Clausewitzian concept that is objectively very clean, very theoretical, etc. Most people today are concerned in this kind of weakened idea that, let's say not weakened, but weak actually, idea that the world is polar. In the previous paragraph we have seen how the world is not polar at all. As a matter of fact, a multipolar world is even against the laws of electromagnetism if we had to equate them in the same way. So what we have in the world is not a, let's imagine the world was divided in two hemispheres, and in one hemisphere there is a power, and in the one there is another. Now there is a big difference even in this system to say, okay, attack or being attacked by one of these two opponents that you are fundamentally the other, given that you are the other one, is the same thing. It doesn't happen like that, because that power is not going to effectively damage you if he is, for instance, moving from the other side of the world to attack you. That point is kind of damaging in itself, so there is a cost at that point that is entailed into the attack as a weaker form of war. And conversely, therefore, if you came to you came to attack him, in that sense, he would have way more power than he would have if he was to attack you. So in this sense, even if there was this fight between this, let's assume perfectly equal forces in the two hemispheres of the world, still the conditions within this fight would drastically change in a way that is non-polar, because at that point it takes that particular power to carry out a certain type of operation that has consistently difficult strengths involved into it. So there is nothing polar into it. You can basically consume yourself even without actually damaging the enemy. And this is better understood when you have actually several poles at once. So the idea is that if one becomes weaker, let's say the other, it doesn't follow that the others actually become stronger, because all the various combinations that can go on there that also dictated by uncertainty, because you don't actually know all about the other, etc. But even if you did, there can be different motives in here that modulate the force you have to employ. So what you have is not poles in the world. The world is not multipolar. The world is just populated by a bunch of powers who kind of shout, aggress, and do certain things on their own, but that costs something to them in the same moment when they do it. So and time passes, the thing change, and energies and strengths kind of vary, and they do not vary within the relation between these, because it's not polar. There is another direct reciprocity into this. You can have environmental changes. You can have internal political and social changes. This is the kind of most evident example you can make. But it's important because beyond the strictly military domain, so even entering in, besides entering into politics and society, uh, this is actually a physical concept. It takes more energy to attack than defending. So the choice you make in that sense has an impact primarily on your capacities to wage war, and it doesn't necessarily affect the other one. And therefore attacking doesn't equate to inflict a damage to the enemy, as if that was the same damage you could have if on him if you defended, because those will be different, even if they were if the conditions were kind of metaphysically kind of perfectly the same, which is impossible because situations change, conditions change continuously. But even if they were, attack and defense bring you to different results. And I know maybe at this point it's not I hope the concept, the example was clear at least, because it's actually very, very clear. A doesn't want to attack. Well, he wants to delay, because he thinks he's gonna be stronger later. So at that point, B prefers to be attacked before, as soon as possible, not to make A too strong. But attacking A will not make B obtaining the same result than if A attacked at the same moment. It would be something totally different. This has to be particularly clear. I realize that at this point of the Vom Krige, such concepts seem kind of empty, probably because it's me that is explaining them. These are concepts that will require much kind of clear and kind of axiomatical and scientifical, at least, explanation, at least in terms. But the important here is really the concept at base. That attack and defense are two different kinds of wars with of unequal strength. And we'll have plenty of time to see how this is the case and what this actually entails into real war. But do not think that here von Clausewitz is talking about something abstract. He's actually demonstrating under your eyes what actually happens in reality, starting from the abstruse, let's say not even abstruse, but the abstraction, the theoretical abstraction that it's kind of more instinctive to try to make when trying to deal with war. Von Clausewitz is going completely the other way around, methodologically speaking. And this is particularly important because it starts demolishing this kind of abstractional need that we that we have in order to achieve kind of a absolute principle that works all the time. Because the Vom Krige's objective is to show you that the war can't be fundamentally scoped for the sake of knowing how to win all the time, because that is impossible. And at the same time, of course, it shows you, how you should proceed in order to maximize your results. But he's also showing you how, physically speaking, because this is actually, it gets down to physics, that there are many parallelisms even with the theory of games. There's plenty of studies that deal with the Clausewitzian theory in mathematics, in physics, etc. Because they are inherent to our nature, to the world we live in. We are limited in some way, in many ways, and therefore you can't start dealing with war thinking that there is a science of war. There's nothing like a science of war. There may be just an art of war that is different. There's just a way to command, to know how to command, how to take decisions, how to assess the risk, and to how to respond to it. But you never have the certainty of victory. And yet, it's way more productive to reason in this way to achieve victory than pretending that there is an absolute reality where you can find the best solution, you can predict everything, and you can find the best solution for every kind of situation that can happen in war. There would be a lot to add also in here, but I think it's better we continue another time. For now, this we will actually be explaining it further in the 17th paragraph, that is about the effect of polarity is often destroyed by the superiority of the defense over the attack, and thus the suspension of action in war is explained. So here introduces another bit of elements, at least on the probability this can happen, at least not scientifically meant, but showing that the defense is in fact the strongest form of war most of the times, and reconnecting to the suspension of action that we had seen a bunch of paragraphs before. But we will see it next time. So for now, I just hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please share it, otherwise leave a like, or subscribe to my channel if you're interested in my upcoming contents. And for now, I thank you heartily for listening to me. I wish you a nice time and see you next time. Bye.